So 95% of the key decision makers for health and wellness of Americans in this country do not trust the source of information that they get 95% of the time. How many times a day does your patient ask you about products they find on TikTok ads? And they say every freaking day. Shopping for your health is kind of the worst experience in CPG, even though the stakes are the highest. It should be the opposite. The stakes are the highest. It should be the best experience. But it wasn't until I was on the front row journey where I realized that that privilege of free access to medical expertise right at my fingertips my whole life is what our mission really is to try and democratize to all shoppers. Everything kept coming back to the same fundamental pain point, which was shoppers just didn't know what to trust when buying a health product online on their own.
Today I'm joined by Irfan Alam, founder and CEO of Frontrow MD. And we'll go into the whole intro, but I'm just really excited to dive into this conversation with you, having created a version of a marketplace, trusted category, and a new leader in your own category. When I did a research around competitors, I couldn't even really find any.
Thank you so much. No, I'm super pumped to be here, especially be able to do it in my hometown of Austin. I was born and raised here. The company is remote, but we love being here and also seeing it as a emerging wellness hub as we try to continue and grow our business as well.
Yeah. Well, you grew up in a household where both of your parents are physicians, and I'm assuming that had a built-in trust layer when it came to health decisions.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start at the beginning. Like what spurred this vision, with your background at Everlywell, Rock Health?
Yeah. So normally I start the story during my time at Everlywell because that was probably where the genesis of the pain point and experiencing it myself as a health and wellness marketer came from. But since you mentioned my parents, that's probably the actual beginnings of where I, from the consumer side, experienced the opportunity for what Frontrow is trying to build in the world. So I was privileged to have parents who were both physicians in Austin. And growing up, my mom in particular was very early on the functional medicine wave before it was really called anything.
Okay.
And so she was hand-picking supplements and vitamins and data tracking and all of this stuff since we were pretty young, actually. And I never thought much about it growing up as a kid. I just assumed that was standard and that was a part of living a good life, was thinking about your health preventatively and having access to those kinds of solutions.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was on the front row journey where I realized that that privilege of free access to medical expertise right at my fingertips my whole life is what our mission really is to try and democratize to all shoppers. So it's not just kids like me or people like me that had parents who could do all of that for us, for me and my brother. But imagine if we could bring that type of expertise to everybody while they're shopping for their healthcare. So that's the crux of what we're doing. So as you mentioned, my sort of prior working experience before starting Frontrow and before business school was in leading strategy at Everlywell, which is a consumer home lab testing company also based out of Austin. The first day on the job there, Julia, the founder and CEO, who's been a big mentor of mine, said, Irfan, we need you to just figure out how we can continue to improve our LTV to CAC ratio, which just means we need to sell more of our products efficiently online as a new category that Everlywell had really spun up in home lab testing or consumer home lab testing. For months, all I was doing was listening or hearing from shoppers about why they were or weren't buying that consumer health product online. And everything kept coming back to the same fundamental pain point, which was shoppers just didn't know what to trust when buying a health product online on their own. And that on their own piece, I would discover later while I was at business school doing some of the experiments that you alluded to and during my time at Rock Health. But at that point, every time that we tried to build trust with shoppers, so for example, for Everlywell, it was like people thinking, oh, why are you taking my blood? Are you stealing my DNA? And we didn't even do DNA tests. Our labs didn't have the genomic sequencing capabilities, but obviously, as the seller of the product, making those kinds of statements and claims would always be assumed as bias. Right. And in healthcare, it felt like the stakes being so much higher, the skepticism was almost higher because you're giving your blood or ingesting a non-FDA approved pill. And so I didn't think much of it at the time in terms of the macro problem at hand, because about 6 months after joining Everlywell, COVID hit and the company just radically transformed. We ended up growing from like 50 to 500 people in the next 18 months. We launched the first home COVID-19 test. So the business took a whole new direction and grew more of an enterprise solution much after that. But that experience of seeing a small team make an outsized impact in the world, that's what got me excited about entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And so I went to Julia and said, hey, I really want to start my own company. You've inspired a lot of that in me. And she suggested maybe this is a time to go to business school. She had gone to Harvard Business School in like 2009. And it was like right after the economic recession. And she actually graduated from this very famous class of entrepreneurs. And so she was like, maybe this is another one of those magic moments in time to go to school, surrounding yourself with people who are excited about solving new big problems in the world, COVID, healthcare. Yes. So got to business school, ended up sort of following her on that journey, and decided to do a part-time VC gig at Rock Health, which is like a digital health focused VC fund. And first day on that job, Bill, the partner there, was like, Irfan, the only thing we don't invest in is consumer health. And I was like, oh, great. That's the only thing I know anything about, but glad I can be helpful. Basically just reviewing pitch decks that were being submitted online. Yeah. And that's when I started to notice this trend again, where that summer before B School, a couple of small healthcare companies had reached out asking about whether and how to go direct to consumer. And then I saw all these companies raising money, looking for cash because they were bleeding so much capital on this customer acquisition cost problem. And that's when I started to piece it together that maybe this is more just something that Everlywell was challenged by with shopper skepticism. Maybe this was a bigger ecosystem problem. So happy to talk about how we went from that problem to a solution, but that was the origin of how I got started with trying to figure out how to help wellness brands build trust with shoppers.
Yeah. I love the genesis of both your personal history, having lived experience on that front, and then also your professional transition and exposure at Everlywell and Rock.
Just kind of happened that way, right? Yes. Like I wasn't thinking about it consciously until those trends those patterns kept coming back, back and forth.
I guess maybe walk us through the model. So there is having clinician review and putting their trusted stamp of approval. Yep. I've always been curious when I've looked at Frontrow where the growth and the entry point is coming from. Is it from on the clinician side, sharing about the products with their stamp of approval to their patients, to their network? Or is it also equally on the brand side and really using that stamp of approval on the marketing efforts?
Yeah. So maybe I'll actually pick up from that part of the story, because the experiment that I did in business school ended up being the mapping of our solution.
Right.
Where I started thinking about how do you get people to trust buying a health product online. And so I got a bunch of people's health information on a Google form. And I was like, I'll email you a weekly recommendation based on a bunch of research I'll do. And as an independent third party, maybe you'll be more likely to buy the product because I'm not biased in any way.
Sure.
And at first, people were not much more likely to buy. And so I started talking to the participants and saying, hey, you have a family history of high cholesterol or XYZ. This berberine supplement has great cardiovascular health research. Why haven't you bought it? And people started to say things like, oh, well, what do you know? Like, you're not an expert. You're not a doctor. How do I know this is the right research, or you've read it correctly, or if it's good for me uniquely? Yeah. And so that was like the first aha moment where I should have realized. So at the time, my dad, who was also a physician, I had been going to him. I was like, hey, you tell me what to recommend to people. I don't know how to read PubMed research. I'll just summarize it back to the person.
Okay.
And so then I emailed people back saying, oh, well, Dr. Alam, he actually liked this product. Here's what he wrote about why. Now, what do you think?
Yeah.
And that's when I started to notice people buying.
Okay.
And then people started asking, oh, well, can I ask Dr. Alam a question?
Oh.
And so then I was like, yeah, he's my dad. I'll just CC him in the email thread.
Oh, great.
So I just CC'd him, and then they were able to ask him personalized health questions about whether it's a good fit for them uniquely. And that's when I noticed a lot of people starting to buy. So that trifecta of knowing that a doctor liked the product, or now lots of doctors liking a product, why they like the product, the clinician reviews that you mentioned as the second offering, and then the ability to ask questions about whether it's good for you, our newest offering, Clinician AI, powered by all of that clinician reviews and assessments of the literature. That trifecta, what we call the clinician suite, is what we now power to brands to be able to combat that growing health washing concern, they call it now, where shoppers think that products are being marketed as healthier as they are, which really is a problem. So when you ask the question of where does the demand come from, I actually think it comes from the shopper or the patient.
Okay.
So on the doctor side, we're able to actually successfully work with clinicians because the patients are doing the selling for us. The first question we ask when we go into a doctor office is, how many times a day does your patient ask you about products they find on TikTok ads? And they say every freaking day.
I do that.
Right. It's the bane of my existence as a doctor. So help me learn about, share, figure out how to get, educate my patients, because it's what we're bombarded with all the time. If that wasn't the case, the doctors would be like, this is a non-issue. Why are you even bringing this to me? And then on the brand side, it's the shoppers. It's the fact that they have a high bounce rate of people now leaving to ChatGPT to go ask all these questions, get AI slop responses, not know whether to come back if that's the right solution for them. And so it's the growing concern of people trying to improve their health, but not knowing how to, that I think is actually driving the demand.
Yeah. And do you find that there has to have been a lot of brand trust built in the Frontrow MD brand, or do you find that when a consumer comes to a brand, they see, thousands of clinician reviews and approvals, that is enough to move the needle?
It's a really interesting question. We probably in the past year, or maybe really in the last 6 months, have started thinking about that side of the business more, where we've been so focused on building a great solution for brands and clinicians and connecting them in this way so that we can serve shoppers. But we hadn't, until recently, really understood the significance of our own consumer brand and the identity of shoppers now. Our data shows that tens of millions of shoppers at our scale now are seeing our clinician suite badges or offerings every month. And so that's a lot of people that are now associating Frontrow MD with, oh, that product has this clinician signal support. This third party has tracked that data. That other product doesn't have that support. And so maybe I should be wondering about why. Because by the way, we don't support every brand. We have a medical advisory board that screens, scores, approves, and rejects products. And so, or talks to brands about how to reformulate, improve their supplement label, dosages, device claims, whatever it is. And so we want it to be a trust signal that shoppers know means something, because to earn that support from our advisory board and then from our clinician network should have inherent value that we want you to trust beyond the actual review itself or the actual literature summary or the clinician AI response. So it's something we hope to continue to strengthen now that we realize at this growth, how much visibility we have with shoppers.
So I can see that, because I know with clients that we worked with, we've tested having that logo inside emails and inside ads, and it has improved the click-throughs. It has included, because there is a level of trust that's built in. And to your point around health washing, I'd love to kind of break down that a little bit further. Consumer health and wellness, thankfully, has seen a lot of growth. Women's health has seen incredible growth from a capital investment standpoint.
The key decision maker of the household.
Yes, exactly. But then we're also inundated with great looking ads. Some are true, some are not. And then how do we decide where do we funnel our resources and make our health decisions, right?
So it's interesting. Rock Health put out a report on this topic where specifically for women, they found were often the chief medical officers of their own household as the key decision maker. And I think it was something like 5% of women surveyed in this large survey that they did trusted health information that they found online through like social media ads,
Yes.
influencers, et cetera. So 95% of the
Yes.
key decision makers for health and wellness of Americans in this country do not trust the source of information that they get 95% of the time.
Yes.
Right. And so trying to really at the crux of what we're doing is create a new source of information.
Right.
Like work with clinicians, help them learn, share, review is all the tactical stuff that's happening. But what that really means is bringing a new piece of content into the world that hopefully those key decision makers can actually trust, because like for your children, we both have toddlers that are 2 years old. I feel this most acutely now as a parent, where I'm bombarding our pediatrician with questions all the time.
Right.
And I feel even more sensitive about what I put in my kid's body than my own body.
Yes.
And so at that, where that stakes are so high, higher than any other CPG category,
Yeah.
that's where health washing is understandable, because people want to make sure that they're putting their hard-earned money into good places that won't harm the people that they love.
Right. Well, now it's an interesting moment in time, because now you've layered in Claude,
Yeah.
Chat GPT, and now we're running these questions even before I go to our pediatrician as another layer of filter.
Yeah.
And so now, there's this interesting trifecta of even beyond Google search, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we went to, so now I've been doing this for about 5 years.
Yes.
So when I went to doctors 5 years ago, I would say, how many times, a day do patients ask you what products they find through Google?
Yes.
Then I started asking from TikTok ads. Now we ask about how many times a day do your patients ask you about stuff they find through AI chat?
Yes.
In some ways, those tools are helping people access information, but it also has the same increase in confusion.
Yes.
Where
Yes.
without new pieces of trusted content,
Yes.
those AI chatbots are just resurfacing the same AI slop that blog content is just being written by AI.
Exactly.
And now AI is sourcing that blog AI content to shoppers.
Exactly.
And so when we thought about our clinician AI tool, we train it specifically on pre-written content from different clinicians. So they're reviewing literature, they're analyzing that literature, and then clinician AI is summarizing that, personalized to the shopper's question, which is where I think generative AI has so much unique power, where getting my dad to respond to 1 million questions a month isn't feasible.
Correct.
And it's too expensive for us or the brand to be able to afford.
Yes.
But clinician AI, if you get the pre-written content where they summarize and analyze the research, and then clinician AI can be the scaling chat function, the conversationalist aspect of the AI, that feels like a really great merriment of human expertise, literature, quality assurance, and personalized scale for shoppers at large.
100%. And I'm assuming there are guardrails that are built in against accuracy, even with the initial inputs.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So many layers we have to go through, different than what a shopper, like our initial philosophy was, how do we make sure this is safer and better than going to ChatGPT, which we know shoppers are now leaving, like a prenatal website.
Yeah.
You're going to go straight to ChatGPT to ask. Or, I mean, even actually clinician AI's real genesis beyond the experiment with my dad, like what triggered it as the timing for when we wanted to launch it was my wife came to me with a Facebook post. And this was around the time we had just had our son. And so she was in like mom Facebook groups for the first time.
Yes.
And there was like there was one Austin one where a woman had posted a really personalized question of like, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, I've spent 3 hours on the ungodly amount of information on the internet about which prenatal is right for me based on my hypothyroidism. And is it, this has folate and this doesn't, and this brand says it's better to have this dosage of this ingredient, but what about for my body?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any answers for me? To Facebook, to a Facebook group.
Yes.
And I empathize with that question, because those are all actually the dosages of certain ingredients and which ingredients you should or shouldn't include, particularly when you're pregnant, is probably the most important health and wellness question you could ask.
Yes.
And that person had nowhere to go for that.
Yeah, that's right. It's like Facebook, Reddit.
Right. Facebook, Reddit, AI, your doctor with a copay that you have to pay and schedule 6 weeks out, who may not give you a very clear answer because they aren't being educated and trained on how to evaluate these types of products.
Yes.
And so we said, okay, like that's the standard of care today.
Yeah.
The Girl Talk ATX Facebook group post.
Yes.
How do we make it way better than that?
Yes.
And so we said, okay, we have an internal team of medical researchers that looks at all the research and summarizes it for our medical advisors, who are physicians, 3 of whom who have to co-publish and author a long-form research report that then is complemented by tens of clinician reviews on that product from independent, unbiased, unpaid clinicians in the world who sample the product. And then it trains clinician AI. We have another person who battle tests the responses, makes sure it's not hallucinating, responding, or incorrectly summarizing that analysis from the clinicians. It has citations to all the research in every single response. The shoppers get access to all that content, and the brand can then go and double check it all to make sure it's not saying something crazy before they actually present it to shoppers. And so the results have been really exciting because we can actually track when someone chats, whether they end up buying or not, anonymous because they don't fill out a profile or anything. And we've seen conversion rate lifts 30 to 50% fairly consistently for people who, like 30 to 50% more likely to buy than people who don't chat during that same window of time.
Wow.
Which isn't shocking when you consider those are the people ask questions that are otherwise probably bouncing because they are concerned.
Yes.
And then our brands actually get access to an insights experience to see what types of anonymous questions your shoppers have. What health issues are they struggling with? What product concerns?
Yes.
Because that's the crux of understanding how to build trust with your shoppers, knowing where they're coming from.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Maybe we can go back to the 0 to 1 and the status of building your company, because you've been at this for 5 years.
About 5 years now.
What I witness is there's the founder conviction, right? Like, I'm going to do this. I'm creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
And so how did you, and then you're defining a new category. So how did you go from that initial 0 to 1, figuring out the partners, the brands, or maybe because the problem was there wanting to be solved, and the growth of consumer health?
Yeah. So and I jumped a little bit ahead. The origin story after that experiment was, this was now bleeding into my second semester of business school.
Okay.
I basically wasn't showing up to class at that point. I was so enthralled by this idea of like connecting shoppers with doctors to wellness.
Yeah.
And realizing that people are so used to accessing their healthcare through their doctor, who's otherwise nowhere to be found in the consumer health journey.
Yeah. And
so this is one of those founder moments of just sheer luck where I had thought about raising a small, pre-seed angel round to help me build product over the summer, going into my second year of business school. And for any of those who recall that kind of post-COVID health and wellness VC surge in 21 to 22, where we ended up just having a pre-seed seed round that kind of grew out of control. And we ended up being able to close a $3 million seed round at that time with the condition of leaving school to go and to build it.
Wow.
And honestly, like our lead investors, we joke about this now because I raised that in like March of 2022.
Okay.
And 6 weeks later, Putin invaded Ukraine. The markets collapsed, oil prices, inflation.
Remember.
Tons of tech layoffs that summer. And so our lead investor called me. He's like, Irfan, if you had asked us for this money 6 weeks later, we'd given you half the money at half the valuation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that ended up being super critical to the next phase of the business, because it took us 2 years from that point to figure out how to basically scale this beyond my dad. Like, how do you get doctors to do this? And so once we figured it out and the clinician suite was then able to click, and we've been able to grow over the last 2 years really with that offering, all the offerings that I've been talking about. But the capital that we had allowed us to survive through some of those challenging points of really actually the hardest part was just getting time with the doctors.
Right. That was
the real challenge, which looking back, I think one of the founder mistakes that I made was I didn't do enough research or experimentation on that go-to-market side of things, where I just assumed, okay, if you had my dad write reviews, share the product, answer personalized questions, then all this magic stuff could happen. So then we raised the money and I started building the product.
Oh, okay.
And then I remember we came out of stealth about a year later.
Okay.
And we had like a mini stealth coming out party with a Google Meets call with the team. It was probably like 5 of us or so at the time. And I remember I was like, all right, guys, I'm going to go call a doctor office. It's time to start actually selling this thing. And I remember I called my first doctor office, and some old woman picks up in like Alabama, and she's like, I was like, hi, I'm Irfan, Front Row Health. We're excited to do blah, blah, blah. And she's like, we don't want what you're selling. She hangs up the phone. And I remember my wife saying, if she comes out of the other room, she's like, are you okay? Like, and I'm like, yeah, it's part of the process. Like, you're going to get some no's. And then it was like basically another year of trying to figure out how to we could get like, my parents introduced me to doctors, or I had doctor friends, and we got some of the early cohorts from that. But I was really figuring out, like, how do we scale this?
Yes.
They are a busy gate-kept professional where you have to get with the receptionist and the office manager and then get time with the clinician that doesn't have a normal schedule like you and I, where meetings and invites and lunch, it's like you're just the fee-for-service healthcare model means that they make more money the more patients they see.
Yes.
And so that's why they're so burned out, because they're focused so heavily on volume versus outcomes in a value-based care setting. And so that was the big kind of next hill to overcome. It wasn't really like, if brands could get doctor backing, would they like it, or would shoppers see value in it? That part was all pretty straightforward, honestly. It was really, honestly, just getting time with doctors.
And so now what was a breakthrough on that front? Because now you have over 1,000?
We have a few thousand.
A few thousand.
In our network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So the breakthrough was my grandma, actually, who had the key insight. So I was doing all of the SaaS founder tactics to get with clinicians. So we did email marketing, ads, we did cold calling eventually, everything that you learn about doing, in a business school class about sales, and none of it worked. And so I was lamenting about this to my grandma, who was like, cause she's like, why aren't you guys making any money? It's been like a couple of years. And I was like, look, like I can't even just get time with doctors. I think if we get time with them, they'll like it. All the doctors we do talk to are like, yeah, we hear this from patients struggling. Like don't know how to respond. I would love to give discounts and samples and whatever. And so she was like, well, don't you remember growing up in dad's office or mom's office, you'd have, pharma sales reps come and give you guys Taco Deli tacos every day.
Yes.
And like, just go buy the office's tacos. And I was like, no, like that doesn't work. Like that's such an outdated, like 1980s pharma Pfizer model. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just try it. So this is like summer of 2023. I'm like knocking on doors in the heat of Texas, driving around Westlake offices. And I walk up to the receptionist and I'm like, hey, like, can we get a lunch and learn with the office? It's the lingo. And then the receptionists are like, ding, ding, ding. Like, yeah, I have a little calendar. You can like write your name in. Oh. And then you buy lunch for the whole office.
Okay.
It gets you 15 minutes at minimum, or 5 to 15 minutes, depending on whether the doctor's excited about what you're talking about.
Okay.
And the kitchen back office, you wait for an hour for the doctor to show up
heard
late,
about this.
running through the office saying, hey, Irfan, like I got 2 minutes. Like, what do you got? Like, you got to be really good at the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, what got them excited was they are so used to hearing like the next ED drug, like pharma pitch for, Humira or whatever, the pharma drug pitches. When we get to talk about like electrolyte powders and protein bars and healthy snacks and whatever it is, they're like, oh, this is cool. And when my original investors, or when we were raising that first round, the big dilemma question investors had were, would doctors do this? Would they participate?
Right.
And my hypothesis was, it's not that doctors walk around thinking that the only way to be healthy is to take hard FDA prescribed drugs.
Yes.
They just don't have the time or the way the easy way to learn and share these kinds of products that can help their patients preventatively, because they do care about that.
Yeah.
And doing that within the fee-for-service healthcare model is really hard. Luckily, once we broke through to the clinician in terms of just getting time with them, and then the path was a little bit smoother sailing from there.
So then I guess I'm curious, because they're so busy and in the current pay per client time model, how were you able to get their time to give reviews, and what does that model look like?
So this is a lot of the, you mentioned in your intro that we don't have really any competitors in the traditional sense, when like we don't lose deals to anyone, especially because a health brand trying to get clinicians to back their products at scale on their own would require them building their own pharma sales force. The only companies that can really afford that are billion-dollar pharma companies, not small to medium-sized business, e-com businesses. And so what we spent multiple years designing the platform as was around this key insight of clinicians are super busy, but super eager. Like they care intrinsically about what's happening to their voices being drowned out by celebrities and influencers and AI slop, where they are aligned with us on our mission. That's honestly the whole human insight this business is built around, is that they want their voices to be elevated too, with their patients and more broadly as the expert community. Because that's what a lot of us are all worried about in the age of AI. Like, are we going to be overtaken? Are people not going to trust the normal sources of authority? And it's made worse with the Tylenol autism debate and vaccine debate. And like all those things make it feel like those, like doctors feel like they're not the traditional expert that they've spent 30 years studying and training to understand the human body. And so that's why they're eager. And then we just do everything to make it easy for them. So we have medical advisors that screen, approve, reject products. They see the scores. Our medical research team summarizes all the research for them. We have in-person people with them, white glove service, giving the samples, talking about the products to make that tactically less time intensive for them. But it's because they're eager that it ends up working.
That's interesting. That's so clear. And I don't think I've heard it framed that way.
It took a long time to figure that out. So, I mean, now I can say it that clearly. But that's going back to the moat that we have as a business is figuring out how to do this all at scale and that motion and how you communicate and build the relationship with the clinician. That's really what makes it hard to replicate.
Got it. Okay. So then in terms of the monetization model, I think it would be helpful to kind of understand, because from the outside, it's not that straightforward to map.
So many stakeholders.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But actually, it's fairly simple. So the health brand is our paying customer. The reason is because when they add our clinician suite to their website or their marketing email ads, et cetera, they see oftentimes a lift in performance or conversion rate, meaning more people, more shoppers are likely to buy the product on their website when they've spent all this money on ads to get them to the website. When they see doctors are backing it, which ones, how many, why, digitally tracked, and now the ability to ask questions, et cetera. So because they're seeing that ROI, we can charge just typically a monthly fee to collect that data and then power that dynamically on your page to increase conversion rate and oftentimes deliver greater ROI because shoppers are looking for those sources of authority when they're confused, being inundated with all this content on influencers and ads, et cetera.
Yes, got it. Okay. Oh, that is a lot simpler than I had assumed.
It's just connecting a lot of people to make that happen.
Yes.
But then what we oftentimes actually debate, should we go direct to consumer ourselves?
Right.
Should we make our offerings on a general marketplace or build an app for consumers to talk to clinician AI or something? That's interesting stuff that I think we might do one day. But the pricing model is actually a part of our mission or philosophy as well. Because if you think about it, going back to the point about my parents, that was free access to medical expertise that I had. And now when shoppers are on those pages, because it's subsidized by the brand, those shoppers get free access to medical expert opinions and research analyses all at the point of purchase. So that's making it accessible to people that may not be able to know whether this is a good product for them because they don't have the education or the technology savviness to go on Claude, Opus 4.7 and ask the right prompted questions and what have you, right? So the brand being excited to be able to increase the conversion rate actually just means that this is democratized, free to all their shoppers.
Right. No, that's a great point. And so are you finding a lot of growth on the brand side, or like kind of like in terms of growth points now and what's next? And you'd also mentioned potentially raising.
We've seen some significant growth in the last, so we launched the offering basically around 2 years ago, and we now have over 500 paying wellness brands. We just brought on 100 in the last month.
In 1 month.
Yeah. So the growth rate, we've had a really exciting inflection point in this past probably 3 or 4 months, honestly.
Wow.
And I think what's happening is wellness brands are now seeing the industry adopt this new form of expert social proof, if you will.
Yes.
Where actually one of our my executive advisors, Brant Barton, who was the co-founder of Bazaar Voice in Austin,
Okay.
he talks about they were the godfathers of the greatest e-commerce tool that's ever existed, which is customer reviews.
Yes.
And what happened was at some breaking point, shoppers began to expect, like, you and I don't buy products on the internet unless they have customer reviews.
200%.
Super suspect if you don't have customer reviews.
Correct.
We want to build a world where you also don't buy a health product online and trust that in your body or your kids' bodies if you don't see medical expert and research backing on that product.
Got it.
And so prior to Front Row, no one had access to that. Shoppers didn't think about it as a result.
Right.
But now that it does exist or can exist in the world, now shoppers are starting to expect it and brands are starting to see it. And that's, I think, what's helping fuel our growth, where we want to create that influence on the industry to earn the clinician backing, because we don't support every brand.
Right.
One of the really exciting trends that I'm really proud of that we've noticed in the last 6 months is when our medical advisors initially, quote unquote, reject a product, it's actually more of a collaborative path forward that they write about in a report back to that brand.
Okay.
Where we say, if you update your formula in these ways, or your marketing claims or your dosages, we can then approve the product to then introduce to our clinicians, who can then share and review it for their patients, et cetera. And actually, most of the time, brands are now reformulating or changing their dosages, ingredient lists, et cetera, to then be able to earn clinician backing, because they realize that their product has to actually be scientifically formulated, and therefore to earn clinician backing for the trust of the modern shopper.
I love that. That is a huge, it's a huge benefit. And frankly, just for human health and humanity, like, that's so necessary.
That I would say is probably the thing I'm most proud of. I didn't expect it to happen that way. I just thought brands would be mad that we were rejecting their products and say, screw off.
Yes.
But now I think because of that market pressure, where they know that without the clinical research and expert backing through Frontrow MD as a trusted signal increasingly,
yes,
that they should take that clinician feedback seriously.
Yeah. It's an interesting point that you say, like, we won't buy products without reviews. And it's 100% true, because I just don't have that much time. So I'm just going to scan. I see the number of reviews. But we also know that reviews can be gamified. Like, it can be fake reviews. Oftentimes it is, when it's a high number of 5-star reviews. But it's so weird how our human mind, we still disregard it and still use it as a point of truth or as a qualifier. And what I love about this model is that the barrier to have this type of expert reviews,
it's a higher bar.
Exactly. And it's much harder to scam and to fake, right?
Definitely. I've now spoken to hundreds of wellness brands.
Yes.
And there's obviously this concern about snake oil.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for the most part, brands, like, imagine you're putting aside your corporate job to start a CPG company with no guarantee of success.
Okay.
And you're foregoing your income to be an entrepreneur. Most of the brands that we work with that fit in that bucket are doing it because they think that the products that exist aren't good enough. And they can make a better product.
Yes.
And so, we actually think of Front Row as like a platform to collaborate with the brand, the collaborative path forward, where we can help you with our clinicians understand how to make the best products for people.
Yeah.
And like customer reviews, to Brant and Brett's credit, who co-founded Bazaar Voice, I think products are better now because customer reviews exist.
Yes.
And there's some fakeness in customer reviews, and that's like been an issue, I think, in the past, 5 years probably.
Yes.
But certainly in the heyday of that era where it was beginning, it was like, we can't sell crappy products because everyone's going to rip on us online.
Yes.
So we got to actually make sure we sell good products. And for health and wellness, it's, like, we need scientific experts to actually make sure that shoppers know that we have good products. And so it's actually a similar kind of effect that we hope to see, where we create that status quo.
Yeah, no, I'm very curious to see the next evolution, especially with all these brands that you're onboarding, like the level of growth on their side, and also just a level of recognition and expectation around having their Front Row logo and stamp right on their campaigns.
Yeah. We one of the ideas that we're toying around with is actually maybe even productizing that collaborative path forward concept of, like, creating a program where you can work even more closely with our medical advisors and our chief medical officer to actually establish the optimal formula. Because some products we have are like, a 4 out of 5.
Yes.
Like, they have good ingredients that seemingly the right dosages, but maybe it's not the optimal dosage, or maybe a different ingredient could have been better in the product. And so, or similar for device companies, what have you. And so maybe we create a program where, like, if you want to be a 5 out of 5, like a truly best product, then you earn like a real front row stamp of approval. Because right now, front row is really a conduit between the clinician and the brand to help the shoppers. So it's like we have a screening process, but it's whatever the clinicians ultimately want to do and say is what we then create, pass the data along to the shopper to help them understand. But clinician AI kind of gets us into that territory of like, okay, like our medical advisors are writing these reports now that then train clinician AI. Like we're creating judgment on products in some way.
Yes.
So, you know, as shoppers see us as a signal of trust, in addition to the actual data being valuable for them, how can we then even elevate the quality of products even further by creating programs for brands to make better scientific formulated products?
Well, and that's very interesting because now your relationship on the brand side is much earlier on. And I can see that creating another level of stickiness and depth that wasn't there before.
Well, we're seeing a huge increase of brands scheduling demos with us. We're actually booked out for the whole next month because there's actually an increase of brands scheduling time that are just pre-launching or launching. And I think that that's a signal of what we're all kind of tracking as wellness seeming to have another major moment.
Yes.
And so AI is actually making it, an automation is making it easier for people to be CPG founders.
Yes.
Because marketing, you don't need as many people.
Yes.
And so it's more affordable without VC backing to create a company.
Yes.
And so I think that's having a halo effect in CPG for sure. And so in wellness, when that trend from shoppers who maybe because of AI are feeling more human and wanting to focus on their human health are now leading to this expansion of small brands that are just launching that at that early stage could actually benefit from our counsel, perhaps, because we work with hundreds of brands and now know what formulas clinicians like, what the research says, what marketing is supportive for brands, given we understand what works. With clinician AI, we now know what tens of thousands of shoppers are now asking about.
Oh my gosh.
We know what their health concerns about, you know, what their product concerns are, what ingredients they're confused about. And so how do we like power our own offerings better with that data is something we're thinking about too.
I love that. And now that triggered, I was like, we have to go back to our clients to understand the questions, like the questions and the symptoms that they're naming, because we lead with that across ads messaging.
Right.
And with access to that data.
Yeah.
That is so valuable.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the things I wish we had at Everlywell. It's like, what are you really struggling with?
Yes. Yes.
And normally those people would be bouncing from your page because they have clearly a lingering product concern or health concern.
Yes.
And so if you can reformulate your marketing, like some of our customers are like, oh, it's not the magnesium, it's the L-theanine thing that people are confused about. And it's the safety. And it's because people actually have insomnia and for the sleep product. And so we have clinician reviews of doctors that say that they think this is a good product for their patients for people that struggle with XYZ issue. Can we use that in our marketing regarding that health concern we know that X percentage of our shoppers are really worried about?
Yeah.
Make another landing page to drive that ad traffic to that page with custom copy related to that condition compliantly based on the actual effects of the product and whatnot. So giving brands access to new data is a whole nother aspect that we're just unlocking right now.
I love that. That's very exciting.
Yeah, we just launched the clinician AI. My chief product officer Yasser, we just got it through production last week, so we're rolling out to our brand partners right now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I can just see so many use cases for that. Yes, note to self.
Yeah. And AI is great too in the sense of like we have all this raw data we're giving brands that AI can actually summarize for them.
Yes.
To say like, here's the trends we see in all the questions your shoppers are asking. So we can actually have the brands action the data so much more easily now.
Yes. Wow. Okay. I didn't realize it was this fresh.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, things are moving fast.
Yes.
So we hope to continue to bring more similar innovation.
So you just went into detail around what's literally coming off hot off the presses. Anything else you want to mention in terms of like the next, like where you see Front Row going the next 1 to 2 years? I mean, things are changing so fast, and with AI, it's a great time to build.
Yep.
But there's also a lot of change.
Yep. This is the fun stuff.
Okay.
It's funny because we just had our board meeting and one of the feedback, I think the right feedback that our board had for me and Yasser, our chief product officer, who's sort of like a late co-founder for me, is we're now at a certain maturity of the business where as a founding team, you got to kind of focus on the boring stuff. Where I'm always really excited about like, oh, clinician AI, insights experience, clinician agent. Like what if, we can go build marketing ads and stuff for the brands based off of all that data we have and all the clinician research analysis we have and do it for them. Like all that's really cool, exciting stuff that we're looking forward to on the innovation side.
Yes.
But probably right now we want to stay strong on our fundamentals of we just signed up 100 customers. We have to go support 100 customers extra in a month to get them all this clinician data and do all the research analyses and have our medical advisors screen all those products, et cetera.
Yes.
So figuring out in the immediate term, scaling and supporting the business at that growth with a set of offerings we've been innovating on for 5 years.
Yeah.
The next phase after that is probably expansion, maybe less so on the innovation side, but more on verticals. So we get a lot of inbound requests from brands, pet health brands, oral health brands.
That's interesting. Okay.
Physical therapists, nutritionists are interested in partnering with us. Brands that aren't in the US, those are with our existing suite, clinician suite, we could serve those folks.
Yeah.
But then if we really look beyond in the deeper future, we're solving one pain point unique to wellness today, trust.
Okay.
And there are other pain points that wellness shoppers have, and there's other ways to solve the trust pain point. So clinicians and medical expertise is one that we've been doing for a while. Now we're introducing medical research is another. But, clinical trials, lab quality, like how do you get objective third-party data to support products? This is a big topic of conversation right now. There's other companies that do that in the market. And so talking with them about partnering to build a combined offering where I've ideated on a concept of like, if you just focus on what is the experience, like the whole point of the name Frontrow MD is putting shoppers in the front row of their health and their health and wellness shopping experience. Like the front row courtside seats are the best experience, but shopping for your health is kind of the worst experience in CPG, even though the stakes are the highest. It should be the opposite. The stakes are the highest. It should be the best experience. Like fashion and clothes shopping should not be the best experience where you have like AI visualizations and like trying on clothes and stuff. Like health and wellness needs the best shopping experience. And so just focusing on what really the shopper pain point is the next frontier for innovation for us.
And it seems like it can be endless. Right. I mean, there's so many touch points.
A lot of touch points, verticals, pain points, ways to solve the single pain point of even just trust.
Yes.
That we're still cooking on right now.
You know what I super appreciate is that you're also shortcutting how many touch points a consumer has to go through. I mean, with marketing touch points, and especially in health, but you are shortcutting that, which is incredible.
Yeah, that is the mission is helping shoppers. And another maybe final part about the mission, because we've been talking a lot about that we haven't quite touched on, that is a part of this question of where do we see the long term of the business. So one of my gripes with the wellness industry is that it often feels like it is really just catered to the worried well or the luxury longevists. And the data empirically shows that the people who are most likely to die of chronic disease are people that are low income. It's not people that are upper income that are buying all these wellness solutions, going to wellness raves, having a sauna in their house, right? Like we're all going to live like empirically pretty fine because we have good access to nutrition and education and resources, et cetera. And so that's why the free access to medical expertise is so important to us as one part of that mission. But how do we continue to unlock our brands' ability to service the mass market of people that may not be focusing on their preventative health, who these products actually have the highest bar of potentially helping prevent disease for?
Yeah.
And that's a great business opportunity for those brands because the worried well is a 2% of the market.
Yes.
And so the other 98% is really what we want to help unlock so that we can improve the health of the people that need those solutions the most.
And then how are you thinking about their ability to invest and consume for their health? Because that's another problem that's...
Yes. Affordability.
Yes.
And trust were the two big things that we saw at Everlywell. Like, I really like this product. I really need this product. But I oftentimes can't afford the out-of-pocket cost.
Right.
And so There are other great solutions on the market that are addressing that. So you have HSA, FSA,
Yeah.
e-commerce widgets. You have companies tackling it on the insurance side, so to help shopper or help consumers to be able to afford beyond the traditional things that health insurance only covers, and that sort of innovation. For us, the starting point was making sure that at least that access to information and medical expertise was free.
Yeah.
But we definitely want to challenge ourselves to think about how do we still make it more affordable for shoppers to access these products. One of the ways that we can do that is by making marketing more efficient for brands. That customer acquisition cost, going back to the original Everlywell, Rock Health kind of patterns and stories, the customer acquisition cost being really high is why the price also has to be high.
Right.
If marketing was infinitely cheap, then the brand can afford more margin hit to be able to bring their prices down to expand their market.
Yeah.
And so marketing costs being so high is what makes the overall cost of operating that business much more difficult. And so that's another way we think about it. Like, how do we keep optimizing top of funnel for the brands before they even get to the landing pages, make it easier for web traffic to get to the brands instead of only converting more of that web traffic when it's there.
Yes.
So all that math is connected to the shopper's ultimate wallet.
Yeah.
Beyond just actually, making the price lower directly or what have you. So it's a tall order.
Yes.
But that's what I hope our industry keeps trying to figure out.
Yes.
Because those are the people that can benefit the most.
Yes, 100%. And that's so interesting that marketing costs is one of the levers that you're really seriously thinking about in terms of reducing, access and affordability.
Because it's linked to price.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's the money that the brand has to spend to get your attention to buy the product. If they didn't have to spend so much money to get your attention to buy the product, they would be able to just give you that money back.
Right.
Like sometimes brands are spending for a $50 product, they're spending $70 on customer acquisition costs.
Yes, especially on paid channels.
Channels. You're the marketing expert, right?
Yes.
So what paid ads CAC is.
Yes.
Could you imagine you could give the product for free to the shopper? Than having to pay Meta all that ad spend.
Yes.
So if you can even reduce it a little bit, that naturally means you can give back. The brand would love nothing more than to bring back to decrease the cost of their product to increase access.
Yeah.
It's actually the difficulty of getting the attention of the shopper.
Yes.
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 And it's because the shopper has a high bar.
Yes.
And that's why Frontrow MD is trying to is to help brands meet the bar and the expectations of shoppers who are confused and don't know what to trust. And if we can do that, then hopefully we reduce the cost of marketing so that brands can make their products more accessible.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're in that interplay between the celebrity endorsement, right? Because you're building a different category of trust, which is also why brands have to invest in so much in celebrity marketing plays.
Yeah. Nick Sharma, an e-commerce legend, shout out to Nick Sharma. He, on his podcast, just recently had a segment about growing, hyperscaling wellness e-com brands.
Yes.
And he talked about how, brands might try to rely on the influencer doctors of the world, the Hubermans, if you will. But he gave us a nice shout out talking about alternatively or in complement with that, working with clinicians at scale who are not paid or biased in any way, have no affiliation to your brand, third-party collected data, digitally tracked and verified, that levels up that credibility for the shoppers who deserve that. That's what, we should live in a world where people know what experts think about a product that could, cause harm or potentially have the chance to prevent health issues down the line.
Agreed. Love it. Love it. I know I would love to be able to have a trusted source where I could say, these are my symptoms. This is what I'm dealing with. What brand creatine can I actually trust?
Creatine's a really...
It's a popular one.
It's a massively growing one. There's a lot of talk right now about creatine supplements that don't actually have the creatine that they say. Which goes back to lab quality testing is another interesting pain point. It's funny, we're running our own Facebook ads now. So actually we get a lot of comments right now about people who say things, who shoppers who end up finding our company, who comment on our posts saying things like, can you just make a place for us to go and see all the doctor reviewed products?
Yes.
And then be able to ask clinician AI the summary of all the medical research?
Exactly.
Which is what you're sort of mentioning your own interests would be. And those are the kinds of comments that help us consider what it would look like to centralize all this data in one place to give shoppers access to it. From a business standpoint, for all the founders listening, it's a good business case study. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to build that software offering for a pure consumer, not a prosumer,
Yeah.
because the willingness to pay is often tough for that type of offering.
Exactly.
You'd be excited to access it, but would you pay $20 a month for that?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
Right. No, that's right. That's
Power
right.
users probably.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
But then you don't
100%.
have the people beyond the worried well, maybe, that
Yes.
want to get access to that information. So, okay, we make it free for everyone, but then how do we monetize that? It's tough.
Exactly.
So that's actually a debate we have as an executive team often, because we, like, from a mission standpoint, love that idea of giving access to all the information, but making it a scalable business model is tougher, which is
No,
why,
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And that's kind of where you end up in, like, the affiliate world and
Yep.
which products they buy.
Yep.
And like, you can see how that model got invented to begin with.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's the whole
yes.
point of affiliate. And then for us, affiliate is an interesting philosophical question of, like, well, do we want to be incentivized to push to make them
Yes.
buy a product, or just be like a source of trusted information?
Yes.
But then
Yes.
you have to pay for the trusted information.
Exactly.
And would you be willing to pay? Can you afford to pay? So we do think that there is some version of that out there.
Okay.
And there are a lot of companies trying to build the AI doctor.
Yeah.
We perhaps see our position as being the underlying source of data to power the AI doctor. Like, if clinician AI became a real consumer AI doctor, like the Function Healths of the world,
Yeah.
or even OpenAI,
Yeah.
launching what consumers will use for preventative health. Like, doctor AI is going to be much more focused on preventative health, especially because doctor AI prescribing you products is still a little bit of ways away. It's kind of starting to happen now, but
Yeah.
imagine if those OpenAI chats could be powered by clinician reviews, like actual clinician opinions
Yes.
of the research related to those products.
Yes.
Maybe that's where we can interface with the consumer, as being the data
Yes.
trove for those companies that have much bigger budgets than us, that can afford to try to sell something to the consumer directly. That might be another
Yes.
avenue
Absolutely.
we've thought about.
Yes. And just more of a data play, right?
Correct.
Not just, but a
Yes.
data play. Yes, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay. I love this. You mentioned, this is called Reclaim because it is built around companies rewriting health. You mentioned helping doctors, physicians reclaiming their voice,
Yep.
which was interesting. And that was
Reclaiming, that's right.
yes. And so for your customers, which you have several groups of customers, who would you say you're helping them reclaim?
I like the great reclaim question. It's the name of the podcast. I have to think about that. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with the clinicians. It's reclaiming their voice, the voice of the expert. For the brands, to just oversimplify it, like, the good brands are being conflated with the bad brands.
Yeah.
Where health washing, the whole challenge with health washing is you don't know
Yeah.
what's good or bad, because everyone's saying that they're good.
Yes.
And again, bad is not always bad. It's just like the nuances of, is that actually the right dosage? Is it the right ingredient for you? Like, there's all different shades of that versus true, like, bad intention snake oil, which there's
Yes.
some of, but it's a lot of just like, and again, like, the industry doesn't have troves of research, like, of over 30 years, over 30,000 participant studies. So it is a lot of, like, making well-intentioned biological, like, understanding decisions of, like, what this mechanism could look like with some supportive research, et cetera. So I think the brand is trying to reclaim that they are a well-intentioned brand that is taking the effort, paying the extra money to
Yes.
get the scientific endorsements and the research vetted and their products screened and those types of things.
Yeah.
So reclaiming their identity as a science-forward brand instead of just calling themselves science-forward
Yes.
and shoppers not believing that they are. And then the shopper is trying to get what they deserve, and reclaiming that they are supposed to have a much better experience trying to improve their health in an industry that's just focused on treating disease, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so taking charge, I think the word reclaim
Yeah.
has this essence of taking charge and agency. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's obviously like a buzzword in consumer health, like taking charge of your health, but actually hopefully building solutions that make it easier to do that is what we're trying to reclaim.
I love it.
Shopper.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation across
Thanks for the great questions.
multiple angles.
It's always fun to reflect on the journey and think about what we hopefully can continue to build in the world.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.